Greetings! Welcome to another tutorial about Bloomreach XM with XINmods. In this video, we're going to talk about how to prevent people from messing with the structure of your content tree too much by using XIN Mods Workflow Actions. Let's get into it. So in this presentation, we'll be going through a piece of documentation you can find in the Hippo XINmods Git repository. And we will try to implement it for our recipes tutorial example. So if you want to find it yourself at a later date, just go to the Hippo XINmods repository on GitHub and find the file in docs that is called workflows.markdown. And this will outline exactly what we're going to talk about today. The problem that we're trying to solve is as follows. Oftentimes, the front-end application that is responsible for ingesting content from your Bloomreach repository requires certain pieces of content to be located at very specific paths. By default, users can basically do anything to the structure of the content tree. To prevent them from changing parts that should never be changed, we can implement XIN Mods Workflow Actions. These actions provide a set of rules that are checked before any of Bloomreach's workflow actions, like renaming, deleting, or moving a document, are authorized. We'll be going through two main things today. We'll be going into the Bloomreach console, and we'll be changing the plugins the CMS uses to check workflow actions, and we'll be pointing them at the XIN Mods ones. And secondly, we'll be implementing a simple rule that prevents us from deleting or renaming an important path. And the path that we're wanting to always exist is this recipe path. We always want it to exist, so we don't want anyone to be able to delete the folder. We also don't want people to be able to rename the folder. So while they should be able to change the display name, they should not be allowed to change the URL name, because that might mess with the front-end application as expecting it to be at content, documents, recipes. So, like I said, let's grab this documentation. I'm going to put it on my other screen, and I'm going to start at the bottom here, where we're going to enable the plugins. So what we want to do is go into our console. Of course, you need to make sure your Bloomreach instance is running. Then we're going to go into Hippo configuration, Hippo workflows, core, handle. So Hippo configuration, Hippo workflows, core, handle. And we're going to replace this class name with the XIN Mods one. There we go. And we're going to do the same for default. Grab this. There we go. So this takes care of the document workflow. Then secondly, we want to do the same for folder workflows. So let's go into Hippo configuration, Hippo workflows, embedded, folder extended. And this one doesn't use this class name, but a different one, XIN folder workflow info. So let's grab that and replace it here. Great. And we'll do the same for embedded folder, and the same for the gallery as well. That's this one. Very good. So now we save our changes, and that is our first step done. Now, secondly, what we want to do is we want to go and define some rules that tell us what is and what isn't possible. So you might remember that there is a XIN Mods module configuration. So let's go in there. Hippo configuration, Hippo modules, XIN Mods. Oh, it does not exist yet in this one. So let's create one. So let's add a node called XINmods. Very good. And then we're expecting a hippo module config subnode underneath here. So let's do that. Hippo module config. So let's try that again. So let's add hippo module config, and that's a primary type hippo sys module config. Here we go. Great. Oh. Well, now what we need to do is we need to create a new folder called workflow. So let's do that. Workflow. The content node definition only allows this primary type. Good. Then in here, we can specify a property called default outcome. And this property can be set to grant or deny. So that means that if none of the rules that we're going to be specifying in the subnodes of this workflow folder apply to whatever action is being requested by the system, it will return the default outcome. So by default, if you want to be strict about how the system is being used, you might want to say the default outcome is deny, and you want to always specify what is allowed rather than what is denied, which can be a good strategy. But in this case, because there are so many things that we'd have to configure, we're going to say the default outcome is grant, and then through the rules you can specify down here, we're going to deny the actions. So let's do that. So let's create a property called default outcome. Default outcome grant. Very good. So let's save this for now. Very good. So now there are a number of workflow actions that you are allowed to intercept and either grant or deny. Deleting a document or folder, renaming a document or folder, changing the display name of a document or folder, copying it, moving it, and archiving a document. And so these identifiers will become folders underneath our workflow folder. So in our case, let's start by preventing this recipes node from being renamed. So let's create a folder called rename. Rename. Very good. And then we have to specify a rule in this shape. So each rule is expressed as a property on the node. So the name of the property has a certain syntax, separated by periods. You can specify that the rule either grants or denies something, what it should be granting or denying. So a type, for example, our XINmods recipe document. A mixin, which can be applied. It's like a sort of like a flag that opens up the type to other fields, or a path expressed as a regular expression. So in our case, we're probably wanting to say path. And then optionally, you can also provide a description, which will be included in some of the log statements if you want to. It might help with debugging. So in our case, we want to deny the renaming of a certain path. So let's add a property, deny path. And then the value is the exact path that must be denied the renaming operation. So let's just double check content, documents, recipes. Very good. And that really should be it. So let's hope this works. So we save it. just to be sure, let's log out and log in again. Oh, and actually, we need to create a user because by default, the admin user is allowed to do anything regardless of the rules that you have set up. So we should still be able to rename. So let's create a user really quickly. There's an editor person, editor at localhost. There we go. It's pretty strict, I think. Okay, so now I have an editor. Let's add some user roles. So we want them to be CMS user, and we want them to be able to edit content. Yeah, let's hope that's enough. Okay, so back, and let's log in with the user editor. There we go. Oh no, it's not there. Okay, let me figure it out real quick. I'll be back. Okay, after messing around with the user a little bit, I think I got it to work. So let's log in. Now I can see the documents here. And yeah, so now what we want to do is we want to test that if we rename the folder at this path, it will not allow us to do that. So let's try and work around it a little bit. So rename folder, we can still change the name, which is the display name, which is all good. Let's put that back, but hopefully if we change to a different path, then it says you are not allowed to rename this folder, which is good, and that's exactly what we wanted. So these types of rules, you can set up as many as you want, and you can also use regular expressions in here, so that makes matching a little easier. Good. Great. So thanks for watching. If you like this kind of thing, check out the playlist that popped up on the screen. And if you want to be notified when a new tutorial appears, make sure to subscribe. See you next time.